I am doing great. What about you?
Good. Nice to finally connect with you and have you on.
Same here, same here. Really happy to be here and have been looking forward to this discussion for some time now. So excited to add
Absolutely.
value, to share my thoughts in here.
Absolutely.
I
Tell me, how's
usually
your long weekend been?
sorry.
How has your long weekend been so far? It's been a long weekend for most of
Oh,
us in India.
it's been a little stressful because we've been actually coming out with quite a lot of new plans for the future. So especially when it comes to Met We Learn, so it's been a little packed up, but I think a good weekend whatsoever.
Okay,
I'm
great.
happy.
So since you did
Yeah,
already bring up Metvi, I'm going to ask you to give
sure.
us a little bit about your story and also what Metvi is, because of course you can tell us that better than I can tell. So let's just start off with that since we've already dived into it.
Sure. So we at Metfi are building India's first AI-driven multilingual professional networking platform, which will help people connect with the kind of people that they are looking for in a single click, right? So what we are really trying to do is democratize the whole process of networking, right? We are trying to reduce the number of steps that it requires for people to connect with the kind of people that they are looking for, and we are trying to solve this problem first for the Indian market. Right, so that's what we do. That's what we are building for. In future, we would want to create a world where people don't really have to type in that this is what we are looking for, or these are the kind of
Hmm.
people that we would want to connect with. Today, if you use a platform like LinkedIn, it takes you 6, 7, 8 steps to connect with the kind of person that you're looking for. So you go in, you send a request, you expect these people to respond back, and then you share a Google Meet link, and then you connect. It's a very tedious process. And be it an entrepreneur or somebody who's just looking to interact with the people who are working in the same profession, or somebody who's looking to interact with people who share similar subject or professional interests, it's very difficult for us today, right? It's a very tedious process, and we want to bring that time period down. We want to reduce the number of steps and kind of make it easy for anybody to use networking as a skill set, rather than for people like probably us who know how to network. And I think that is probably the core problem of what we are trying to solve. But apart from this, we have recently expanded it onto the edtech, where we are actually trying to bridge the gap between people who want to be entrepreneurs and people who end up becoming the entrepreneurs. And
Hmm.
I think that gap is massive. That gap is huge because people kind of don't understand how to kind of take the journey forward. And that's a problem that I personally struggled with during my first year. I was really under this pressure of how should I take things forward. And it's actually very frustrating because there are so many courses, there's so many programs, there's so many mentors out there who are going to actually you know tell you that they know how to do it. But actually one person is not always enough to guide you with the whole
Hmm.
entrepreneurial journey. So we decided to come up with this program, which was an experiment earlier, where we actually were guiding people through a 30-day initiative where we were introducing them to the top mentors from organizations like Walmart, or who are working with Nike, Flipkart, World Bank, and so on and so forth, who were only talking about the things that they were experts in, right?
Hmm.
And in this 30-day cohort, we were also sharing top quality compendiums which are easily comparable to what is being shared by the Ivy League business schools, and helping people do tasks through which they really learn how marketing kind of takes place, how branding kind of takes place, how do you actually build the cost sheet, how do you actually go about presenting to the investors, what do the investors look for in your startup, and so on and so forth. So this is what we launched, and it has been highly successful. We have already completed 3 cohorts. The fourth cohort, today is the last day to actually register for the first cohort,
Okay,
and
so
we've
everyone go and
almost finished.
register.
Yeah, if there are people who want to be entrepreneurs, who are actually interested in building their own companies, guys, you can go on www.metfi.com and you'll find MVP there. Today is the last date, and we'll be closing the cohort today at 12 o'clock at midnight. So and we've got a great response. We've almost filled up around 98% of the seats, so just a few of them left, and we are sure we'll close them by the end of the day today. So yeah, these are the kind of things that we are doing. But through Metfi Learn, our vision is much bigger. We would want to kind of dive into the other aspects of education as well. And that is what we are right now working on, to actually improve upon this experience, help people who are coming from different kind of backgrounds to understand how management, how business, how entrepreneurship works. So that's what Metfi Learn is about. So these are the two big things that I've been working on for quite a while now, and I've been working on this for more than 2.5 years. And yeah, that's me.
So, that I think it's amazing what you guys are trying to put out there, because personally feel that networking is a skill. So I remember when
Right.
lockdown had just about started, and the only form of networking was, places like LinkedIn. So I would actually take out an hour or a few hours of the week dedicated in my calendar, dedicated to just networking, because for me that's really important. All most of my learning has come through talking to people in different fields. For example, someone like you, I've learned a lot of things from
Right.
talking to you, our first conversation. I learned a lot there, got a lot of insights from you. So I strongly do believe in networking, but I also feel like it's a skill to know how to get someone to respond to an absolute stranger. So I think that's
Right.
where kind of Metvi comes in. And I'm really honestly, personally very excited to use the platform. But now coming down a bit more to the AI aspects,
Sure.
if I kind of just put it in a few words, AI is basically replicating a human brain, how a human brain takes in information, how it processes information, and the meaning it derives from it. So what is AI to you? You've been working on this product that has a lot of AI, and what have you learned from that? What do you think is AI?
Sure, sure. So, I mean, first of all, you talked about Metvi, how we are going to bridge that gap, and that's exactly what we are really trying to do. That we are trying to democratize networking as a skill set. That anybody, irrespective of whether they know how to do networking or not, they're able to kind of connect with the kind of people that they're looking for. As simple as that. Now, when it comes to AI, AI is the very core of Metvi because that is what we are building
Hmm.
this product upon, right? So we imagined a world where I'm looking for, say, an AI expert, and I get a notification saying, hey, you know what, Shaurya, there's another AI expert who's available at the same time at which you are available on Friday at 5 p.m. and you can simply connect with them. As simple as that. You just have to click OK and the meeting is scheduled, right? So we want to build that. We want to get there, and to get there we need to start understanding users. We need to start predicting their networking needs, right? And that is where AI comes into play for Metvi. So, earlier when we were building the product and we launched the MVP, it did not really have any AI components to it.
Hmm.
It was a simple product that would help just people connect with the kind of people that they're looking for. Even at this point of time, when we'll be launching the product next month, the focus would, again, the AI would be there, but it's still at a, probably at its adolescence stage, right? It's growing, and that's what the human component of AI is all about. So I think there is a lot of misconception as to what AI is. It is a buzzword today. I think everybody talks about using AI. As soon as they put in one ML algorithm, they're like, okay, we are using AI now. But that's not what AI is all about. For Metvi, AI is we are going to become an AI company in future, because our focus is to help people just bridge that networking gap, and AI is going to be specifically working to make sure that that happens, right? From predicting what are the kind of needs that people have, to helping them understand that who are psychologically the kind of people that you should interact with. So you and me might have been able to help each other out, but there, in a parallel universe, we wouldn't have kind of got along on a psychological level, right? And that is always there. That's there in today's world as well. That we might be we might be helpful to each other, or we might be suitable for each other's networking needs, but on a psychological level it doesn't quite work out. We're not able to really help each other out, right? And there are a lot of psychological parameters, personalities that come into play, and that is where kind of our AI kind of starts fitting in, and we start understanding how human relationships are created, right?
Absolutely.
So you might
Yeah.
be looking to, you might feel that, okay, you are an entrepreneur, so you are likely to get along with entrepreneurs easily. And that might be a scenario, right? But when, can I make an assumption saying that, okay, Tarini is likely to be, you know, she can be easily she can easily get along with somebody who's, say, an AI expert. Is that a
Hmm.
case? Is that likely to happen on the basis of the information that I know about you? That is where what the challenge is today. That it's very easy to say that, okay, Taran is an entrepreneur, Shaur is an entrepreneur, let's connect them. And all the networking platforms are trying to focus on that. That we are coming from the same professions, we have similar business backgrounds, let's match them together. But is that it? Is that what networking is all about? Networking is about connecting with the kind of people that you cannot connect with, that
Hmm.
you don't know exist in the same world in which you do. And that's where Metvi starts coming into play. That we know that there is this infinite sea of opportunities around you, and there are countless number of people who can help you out in your professional endeavors. Can we find them and match you? Right? Can we find them and completely ease off that process where you don't have to do anything? You just have to sit and click OK. That's it. So that is the vision that we are working towards, which starts from now. That when we launch the product, we are going to cut down a lot of steps that are there on the other networking platforms. And as we kind of grow, the steps are keep on. They're going to come down to a level where there's only a single step, and boom,
Hmm.
the magic starts to happen. So that is the vision. That's what we are building for, and that's what Metvi's AI at the moment is all about.
So are you basically saying that actually to understand human relationships, there's so many components that a human brain may not be able to dive deep into and, go around it, understand it, and connect the dots. And
Yeah.
that can be done through a machine. So is that basically what you're trying to say?
So interestingly, we have this feeling that we feel that AI is more intelligent than the human brain, and at the moment, that assumption is false. There are two kinds of AIs, right? One is the narrow AI, the one that we call AI. Everybody is like, okay,
Hmm.
we've put in one machine learning algorithm, we are an AI company. That is narrow AI, right? And narrow AI is in use. Even we are using narrow AI. I'm pretty sure that even you guys are using narrow AI, because the real AI, which is the general artificial intelligence, it is not, they haven't kind of reached at that point of time, right? And that is what we call singularity, where the AI, kind of exceeds the potential of a human mind. It hasn't happened yet. It will happen. When will it happen? We don't really know. Because we are technically, what we are doing in AI is we are recreating human beings. We are recreating
Hmm.
the human mind through code. And that's what AI is kind of all about. So to get there, first, it's very natural that we keep on using AI to, perfect small tasks, right? I'm only talking about networking for now. So probably when it comes to networking, AI would be able to do a much better that job than human beings. Why? Because it's only focused upon one particular task, and that's what it's going to do. Same thing when it comes to, I think your startup. I'm pretty sure that the last street would also be using AI to help people make wise investment decisions. As simple as
Correct.
that. It's not going to tell you that, hey, you know what, you're going through a breakup. Why don't you start interacting with 5 more people, and that's going to make you feel better. It's not going to do that, right? So at this point of time, all the AI in the world is focused upon using the past information to make future predictions, and to constantly, iterate upon it. I think you're a good person. Okay, let's check. I do a check. I find out, okay, she might not be that great a person, right? So it's a constant iterative process that helps AI evolve. In the earlier days, if we kind of go back to 1990s, we will see what we call the reactive AIs, right?
Hmm.
Where AI knows what's going on at the moment. They know all the pathways. That, okay, I can take this route, I can take that route. This is, and then it calculates. It's basically a problem solving AI, right? That I know that this route is going to take me 5 steps, and this route is going to take me 3 steps. So I will choose this particular step. That was the first level of AI, what we call, the reactive AI, which is still, in use for the majority of the companies that are there. When you actually go to the next stage, we get, memory, oriented AI, who are actually using their past experience to predict the future, which is stage number 2. And here, the
Hmm.
most advanced AI that we have today are probably, we can talk about Siri, we can talk about Alexa, we can talk about self-driving cars, because they are, constantly using the data from the past to figure out what would be the most optimum route to take at this point of time. So there are two components here. What is the current scenario? What are the different kind of paths that are available? And what have we learned from the past? What have we learned from, what has happened before? And we are putting both of these two components to make wiser decisions. Now, in future, the AIs are going to realize that they have their own mind, that it's not just about, the problem solving, or the collecting all the knowledge. It's going to be much more about that. It's going to be about, okay, can I take the other parameters into consideration? Can I figure out each and every aspect of environment around me to make better decisions? Because even if you think about it, today when we are talking about AI, Metvi is talking about, using human relationships. Okay, we will say we will consider 100 parameters, but even as a human being, we look at somebody, and in a blink of an eye, we are like, okay, this person might not. It's not. This person is not giving me good vibes. What Malcolm Gladwell actually talk about in his book, The Blink, right? So that's still there. We are still intelligent. We don't realize it, but we are very, very intelligent at this point of time. AI would also start, getting to that level probably in the next 20 to 30 years or 40 years or even more than that. And that is when it will start competing with human beings on a general level. That can this think we need to start, understanding what artificial intelligence is. We don't need to complicate it. You don't need to use this term to kind of just elevate ourselves that, hey, we know AI, we know how it works. You don't. Trust me, there are probably only 100 or 500 people in the world, and I won't include myself, and I won't include my own tech team at the moment, who really are making innovations in AI. We and you, or probably all the AI startups that are working on it, except for the big giants, are using AI which has been already developed to solve a specific problem, right? And that
Absolutely.
is what our core is. That is what your core is. So yeah.
So I think that's really important for you to bring out because I don't think a lot of people actually realize that what they think is AI
Absolutely.
is actually not AI. And I think a lot of people miss this out. And very interesting for you to point it out. And when people mention AI, to most people, it's like, it invokes these pictures of Terminator machines destroying the world and whatnot. So, Shaurya, like how is AI in our daily base, like for just a normal person like me or you or anyone else? How is AI being used at such minute levels? For example, when I wake up in the
Interestingly, we are
morning and
using
I
AI
pick up,
right now.
yeah,
We are
sorry.
using, as soon as you went live, Instagram's algorithm noted that down. Okay, Shaurya and Tarini have gone live. Great. Now it's not going to just keep that data there. It's going to predict. It's going to start figuring
Hmm.
out, okay, if these two are connecting with each other, that further establishes the fact that two entrepreneurs working on sort of using similar tools to solve different problems can also connect with each other, right? It's using that at the moment. We have gone live. Instagram informs you as soon as you go live. We are informing your friends about it. Does the AI inform all of your friends about it? Not really. And that is the reason why we don't see all the people kind of coming in and watching the live, because not everybody is informed about it. Instagram is thinking, okay, Tarini, these are the people who kind of keep on checking out her profile. These are her stalkers. Let's first inform them. Then we'll think about the other people, right? And that's where AI is in use. Today AI is kind of everywhere. You're using Spotify, it's based upon AI. You're using your social media, it's based upon AI. You're literally using your phone, you are literally using AI, right? It's everywhere. You're if you have a refrigerator, an intelligent refrigerator, that's using AI. If you have an intelligent AC, that's using AI. If you have got home IoT devices installed at your place, I'm pretty sure that somebody here who are watching us would be having their own smart home theater, or somebody would be having a smart fan, all sort of those equipments. They're all using AI. They're all recording data, and they're using that data to figure out what is more convenient for you. What do you like? Why do you think that earlier, when Facebook was first launched, I remember I used to use somewhere around 1 hour, 1.5 hours max on social media. Probably now those numbers have completely changed. And why do you think that has
Hmm.
happened? Do you think that there is somebody who's looking at you and be like, okay, this is what Tarini likes, I should actually feed this into her feed? No, that's AI right there. It's sitting down and it's sharing. It's telling you to do XYZ things. There must be an AI who figured out that by actually helping people to engage or use a live feature, the engagement upon the platform is going to go up. So today you won't believe, but there are AI which are helping to improve AIs, right? That's
Yeah,
literally
very good
that's literally one
point.
of the use cases. So AI is everywhere today. You can't avoid AI, and you need to understand that literally anything that involves internet for sure has AI. For sure. You can't,
And
because as
yeah.
soon as you go on Google, you're gone. Yeah, I mean, you are interacting with AI, right? If you're sitting at your home and you're not doing anything, there is still an AI kind of figuring out, okay, why is Tarini not, why didn't she use Google today? Or why is she not switching on the air conditioner today? What is wrong with her? There's somebody who's thinking. There's somebody who's recording, right? And that's why there's AI all around us, and there's no way that we can kind of be like, okay, we don't like AI. We can literally avoid this. That cannot really happen. So so yeah, that's what I would share. I mean, when it comes to interacting with AI all around us at all the times.
And even going down to the real basics, Shaurya, like when you pick up your phone and if you have facial recognition, that's AI. When you're
Right, that's
replying,
it.
yeah, Gmail gives you like recommendations how to respond to a email you've got. That's AI again. If you go to any
Precisely.
website and there's a chat bot, again, that's AI. So it's really all around us, and people don't realize how involved they are with AI. So it's not this big
Absolutely.
concept that's unknown totally.
Right.
And tell
Right,
me, Shaurya,
absolutely.
what are those few companies that you think are really, really going in depth into understanding AI and using AI?
I think the when we think about AI, we think about we think about OpenAI, Elon Musk. We think about DeepMind, Google. We think about Watson, IBM, and these giants have massive data. They have like at this point of time, if I'm not wrong, I think the rate at which data is growing is faster than anything in the world right now. It's faster than an exponential growth. There's a growth in their exponential algorithm as well. That's the condition at which AI is growing, at which the
Hmm.
data is growing, and as the data increases, AI becomes better. They are getting more information to kind of understand what are the exceptions, how do humans interact, what are the kind of things that they should keep into consideration while they're making recommendations, and so on and so forth. So today, you know, big organizations who have a strong tech background and have a lot of data are going to be the leaders in AI. That's for sure, right? And smaller companies who try to use less amount of data to develop good technologies are likely to be acquired by the big giants, which is exactly what we've been seeing in the last 5 years. OpenAI kind of came in, Elon Musk liked it, DeepMind. We are seeing all of these acquisitions happening all the time, and this trend is going to continue because the big giants would want to maintain their monopoly here, right? But there is another set of companies which we kind of don't know, and we kind of don't think about it, and it's stupid. Chinese companies like Baidu and Alibaba are
Hmm.
actually, if not ahead, at least on par with at par with what Google is doing. They would be the first ones to launch the self-learning, self-driven cars. Even before Google actually commercializes it, they are going to probably do it in China. And why do you think they are able to do it? Because they are being supported by their governments. Because there are no strict privacy laws and business laws in place to kind of prevent them from doing so. So those are probably going to be the companies which are going to dominate. According to one research, if I'm not wrong, there's a 500 is to 1 scenario where Chinese companies are more likely to become better at AI as compared to the US firms, and that stats is kind of it shook me. 500 times more likely, and I think that's huge. So we are pretty sure about the fact that Baidu and probably Alibaba are going to be the companies that are going to have better AI than organizations like Tesla, than organizations like OpenAI, or for that matter Google, or for that matter Facebook. At this point of time, though, I would still say that the Silicon Valley companies do have an edge because they have the best talent, because they have a huge lead in terms of the market value, market capitalization. But the Chinese companies are probably going to overtake them because of the support that they're getting. On one hand, organizations like Facebook, they are installing different kinds of safety measures to prevent themselves, to prevent any kind of data breach happening, or to not experiment with user data. On the other hand, nobody's saying anything to Baidu. They're doing it. They're comfortably sitting there and they're experimenting with a lot of stuff, and nobody's monitoring that at all, right? And that is the reason why probably they will get to experiment more and even leapfrog the progress that the Silicon Valley companies have made. So, but when it comes to the Indian firms, to be very honest, there are very few companies that have been really able to come up with breakthrough technology, when it comes to AI, right? And the
Hmm.
reason is lack of startups which identified data collection in the earlier days. We are seeing a lot of companies in consumer internet space kind of coming in. ShareChat, great organization, lovely startup. They are doing an amazing job. Then probably we are seeing a few more companies who are doing this really well for for food delivery. Swiggy and Zomato, who are doing a great job at it. They're able to kind of predict every time I go there. I'm like, why do they show me exactly what I'm really looking to eat? And that's where AI kind of is. So, but no, not comparable to what the US companies or even the Chinese companies have accomplished in this particular field at this point of time, for sure.
Very interesting. So, I have two things to say. So, first, you mentioned about the data. And I think why AI has become so prevalent today and such a big topic that every company is somehow trying to address is because we have so much data available. And with computers, all this data is now being stored and is accessible. So we have
Yeah.
to bring AI into play to actually make use of all this data, because technically, how can a human brain actually do that? So I think that's a very important point that you brought about. And the second one is a lot of people, or majority of the people, don't actually first look at these Chinese companies, like you mentioned, Baidu or Alibaba, or, any of those. And that's a very important thing. We need to now see that what are the people in China doing, what are these companies actually doing, and what is the support they are getting that has accelerated them, and maybe try and see how we can implement or encourage these things in our countries, for example. So both are very, very interesting points, Shaurya. But I want to ask you now that, there's so many misconceptions about AI. What are the common ones that you have heard, or what is it that, what are the ones that you've got a lot when it comes to AI?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to starting your own company is that you need to build an AI business to kind of be successful today, which is not really true. And see, the thing with AI is that it requires a lot of academic and a financial effort to really call AI, your value proposition, right? And we are also we're developing it right now, so we can't kind
Hmm.
of go there and say that okay, Metri has innovated upon AI, because I think what we are doing is that there is a lot of AI available all around us, which is open source. You pick the good ones, you understand how that can help you solve your problems, and you kind of implement it in the best possible way. That's the maximum that we can do without having sufficient financial and probably technical support that organizations like Facebook or Google might have. So I think at this point of time, you need to understand that AI you should not call your startup an AI startup to become popular if you're not an AI startup. Tech is a buzzword. Don't use tech if you're not tech, and it's completely okay. You don't really get an edge there. I've seen so many of my friends kind of come in and you are asking me, Shaurya, we are not really into tech. It's a normal business that we are building, and we have a meeting tomorrow scheduled with Sequoia. We have a meeting tomorrow scheduled with Nexus. Should we talk about how we are using technology? And my answer to their question is always no. You don't have to, right? They're not interested in that. They just want to see a real business coming in, and you don't have to call yourself an AI startup if you're not. As simple as that. We don't call ourselves that we are right now an AI startup. We're a tech startup, not an AI startup. We will become an AI startup. And that's always the sentence that I use for ourselves, that we will get there. Not here, there at this point of time. So I think, take that out. You don't have to be AI. You don't have to use deep learning. You don't have to use neural networks. If it's necessary, only then you actually go about it. Only then you actually think about incorporating it. If it's not, avoid it. You don't have to do it, right? It doesn't make you sound cooler. It might make you sound cooler in front of your friends, but that's pretty much it. You're gonna make a fool out of yourself in the startup ecosystem, right? That's one. Number two, AI is super complex to understand. Not really. I mean, if you want to really build an AI startup, you don't really need to come from a technical background. What you need to do is understand things on a theoretical level. You understand things on, think about it. AI's biggest, objective is to become better than human beings. And, you just need to kind of think about on a philosophical level, you just need to go and think about how does your brain works? How do you make decisions? Right? And try to incorporate that upon the algorithm that you're building. You don't have to build it yourself. There are so many great people who are great at doing that. You have to think about how is this process going to work? How can
Hmm.
I actually, program something to make better decisions? And for that, you don't have to kind of learn how to code, right? So again, if you're an AI company, or if you want to be an AI company, you don't necessarily need to know, everything about AI, how to code it, how to implement it. Just understand things on a theoretical level. Just understand the crux of what AI is really trying to do, and how can it actually help you solve the problem that you're trying to solve. As simple as that. Myth number three for me would be, actually this thing that I've kind of noticed, and there are so many people, so many engineers, so many people who feel that AI is an important skill set to learn to kind of do well in today's life, and I think that that's not really true, right? While yes, AI is going to replace a lot of jobs, AI is going to probably completely change the way we kind of behave. Think about drivers, think about accountants, think about people who are involved in factory jobs. Think about, even to a certain extent, we are seeing some change in how healthcare system works. We are seeing AIs who are able to solve healthcare problems. So literally, even like I'm talking about jobs that we consider not so where we don't kind of need to figure out too much on the managerial aspects, like drivers, or for that matter factory jobs. And we are also talking about doctors, which is a super duper complex job, right?
Mm.
So AI is going to disrupt everything. It's just a matter of time. But is the right way to kind of just go and learn how do machine learning algorithms work? Not really. What you really need to figure out is, what is that one or two or those five complex skill sets that you can learn, which gives you more time. You need to follow, you need to be aware that, okay, if I want to be a driver, let me not become a driver until unless I'm thinking about becoming a Formula One driver, because probably in the next 10 years I'm going to get replaced, especially if you're living in US, right? So you need to know, you need to be aware about it. Don't just force it upon that I need to learn this, I need to do this, otherwise my job. I think, don't think about it like that. If AI is going to take away a lot of jobs, it's also going to come up with a lot of jobs. Anyway, by 2050, we would kind of reach a place where the unemployment levels are going to increase. They're going to be at an all-time high, and but new jobs are going to be created, and governments would have to start thinking upon how can they actually provide universal basic income. And that's going to happen. It's going to become a right in future, because AI's whole point of existence is to help human race reach a kind of a position where they don't have to do anything, right? We are doing that for networking. You are doing that for making better financial decisions. Somebody is doing that for actually running their houses, and over a period of time it's going to be done for everything. So then we are going to probably just sit down, watch Netflix while AI does everything for us. There's a bot who's serving us food. There's somebody who's helping us fix our problems, getting our office work done. So we will get there, and that's the whole objective. So don't be scared about it. Don't be scared. Don't criticize technology. It's helping the human race to move forward, to take this next step. And when that happens, AI is also going to help a lot of people who are facing problems, right? It's also going to help us in increasing the food output. It's also going to help us in providing medicines, or coming up with cures at a much faster pace. Today, if we had already reached singularity, we would have already got the cure for COVID, right? So think about those things as well, and then try to figure out whether you think that it's going to help you move ahead, or human race move ahead, or move backwards, right? So that's
Absolutely.
what I personally feel, and these are the myths that I feel that people need to kind of really delve upon and change the way they kind of think. So
Yeah, coming to your last myth, which you kind of did talk about, the fact that people think that, oh, AI is now becoming thing and all humans are doomed, and there are no jobs that are going to be available and whatnot. So I was actually watching this TED talk where there was this digital visionary, Kevin Kelly, and he was emphasizing that AI holds the power to be a catalyst to promote a second industrial revolution. And there will be a time where bots will kind of be developed to take over jobs, but at the same time it's going to bring about so many different job opportunities that were never even prevalent or present before. So while AI is coming in taking over some menial jobs, it will also bring about the opportunity for various others that didn't exist to come about. And what I kind of understood as a deeper underlying meaning was that we have to move with the times. Now, if AI is coming
correct.
in to make life more efficient for us, it's not a fight between humans and technology, or humans and machines, but rather it's seeing how both can work together to make our lives more efficient, more productive, and more useful, where the human brain is actually used for things that the human brain should be used for, not these menial tasks and jobs. For example, it could be driving a car or doing some basic things. So I think that's a really, really important part that was really important to talk about. And there was one question. So all these questions that I've asked you today are based on the questions we gathered yesterday from the audience, when we posted your story, and we got a lot of questions based on that. So one question that I noticed that was coming many times, but in different forms and different wordings, was something along the lines of, do you feel that AI will take over our lives? That is, do you think that the world will fully become automated? And what is your thought on that?
I think the answer to that is yes, it is gonna happen, and I'm not really visualizing a world where something like Skynet happens, because that's what I think we kind of feel. But yes, if somebody like Stephen Hawking is kind of saying it, I'm not going to say that it's not going to happen. So I think that AI is really going to change how we kind of think, how we kind of behave, and while it might not take over things like the way that there's going to be machines who are going to be firing at you, but we're definitely going to be reaching a state where there are going to be a very few people who are going to control how humans behave through AI without them kind of realizing it. It's happening right now, and I mean we are seeing how social media or content specifically is kind of really impacting our life in a negative way now, right? So it's all about who holds the strings, and if we allow companies like all the big ones or the fangs or probably the Chinese firms and Alibaba to kind of not be regulated, then we are definitely going to see the wealth, the power, everything shift into the hands of a few people who are going to really influence the way that we behave or the way that we act. Today we are seeing a lot of ads coming into us 5-6 times a day, and finally we end up making that purchase, and that's manipulation, right? But that's like somebody is literally knocking on your door and being like, hey Tarini, would you want this, would you want this pair of shoes? And this person keeps on doing that, and after a certain point of time you're like, okay, cool, I'll buy it. So that has already started to happen, which is scary. And I think that was very clearly represented by the social dilemma of how we are kind of getting very directly manipulated by AI. So I think it's very important to start thinking about doing things for human good, having that ethical code of conduct, very strict ethical code of conduct being present in all the organizations. And that is something that we have always done at Metri, because we also realize that we are actually getting into AI. But do we really want people to be spending their 24 hours on Metri just doing networking? No. Our motive instead is to just help people connect with the kind of people that they are looking for in the shortest time period possible. So we wouldn't want our users to be spending 5 hours a day just doing networking until and unless it's a real professional need. If it is, then go ahead, do it. But if it's not, then it should take you just 10 minutes using a platform like us to connect with the kind of person that you're looking for, and that's it. You do your work. And I think that should be how tech companies should start should actually build their engagement systems, instead of kind of using human manipulation to make people buy stuff to fuel their revenue. And I think those regulations need to be very clearly introduced by all the governments of the world sooner than later, because if it's too late, then AI is we know that AI is kind of improving itself at probably 5-6 times in a single day. So who you are up against. It's not another human being. It's somebody who's growing much faster, who will probably overtake you at some point of time in future, and it's growing every day even as we talk. So do you want those things to happen? If not, think about regulations. Think about kind of using that power in the right direction. See, nuclear, we talk about nuclear energy. It can be used for destroying the world, and it can also be used for fueling the world, right? And we are seeing both the scenarios kind of happen. When it was developed, it was focused upon destruction, and now it's being used for energy creation. So there was a point of time when it was predicted that we are going to have another third world war and the world is going to just burn. But humans were intelligent enough to realize that that's not really the key, and they kind of came up with multiple regulations to ensure that nuclear energy is being used just for fueling, right? And as much as possible. We still know that there are a lot of countries who are kind of using it for other means as well. But we need to do the same thing for AI, because it's a very strong tool. It can impact lives probably in the same way that nuclear bombs could have. The only difference is that we are not going to get probably physically hurt by it, or we might not see the direct impact, but it's there. It's there in all of our lives at this point of time. So I think it's important to make sure that the power is not being monopolized when it comes to AI. That the intention of the companies who are building this is not just to fuel their revenues using AI, but to help the mankind grow. And I think if that mentality kind of comes in, you don't need to fear AI. Then there would be a world where you literally would be just existing. You will be in bliss all the time, and there would be a lot of bots and robots and AIs who are going to, make your life heaven, right? That is going to happen. But if you don't do that, they're going to make your life hell. So the choice remains with us, and we need to kind of, if you are in AI startup, it doesn't matter if anybody who is watching this, are kind of planning to build an AI startup. Think about the humanity. Think about people instead of just thinking about how much profits you're going to earn in the next few days or in the next few years. Because if we don't take that approach, I'm pretty sure that the big giants are not going to. And if they also don't, then we are screwed. So let's have the right heart. Let's have our heart at the right place to when we are actually delving into something like this, which is so powerful.
Absolutely. And there was this quote that Tim Cook had said at one point, and it was something to do with along the lines of that what all of us have to do is to make sure that we are using AI that is for the benefit of humanity and not to the detriment of humanity. And that
Absolutely.
that resonates exactly with what you kind of just said. And it is very important for us, again, as I did say earlier, that it's not a competition, between
Right.
humans and machines at the end of the day. It's about how we can be mutually beneficial to each other. And
Absolutely.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. Our audience has been extremely patient. It's been 45 minutes now. So I'm going to kind of close it off here, with the AI part. And I just had one question that's very off topic. And this was again a question we received from someone in our audience last evening. And it was for you in particular because you're an entrepreneur and it was very focused towards you. So I'm just going to go ahead and look for it once. Yeah. So does startup school or an entrepreneurial course actually help in launching a product, and to what extent?
So honestly, when I was getting started, like I mentioned, I was going through a lot of problems. I was not able to. I did a lot of courses. I read a lot of books, and in the end, a lot of effort led to a little impact. I would not say
Mm,
that it did not help me at all, but the impact was less, much lesser than what I had expected and what people usually expect out of it. The reason is, again, the kind of things that I mentioned, that you are, again, it's a recorded course. There's somebody who are talking about fixed stuff, and then you are done. And there are a few MCQs that you answer up to the end of it, and that's what's happening on Coursera or Udemy or even edX. And these platforms have done a great job in terms of revolutionizing education. But I still feel that this is not how entrepreneurship can be taught, because it's a practical skill, right? And because it's a practical skill which is based upon multiple and thousands of circumstances. I mean, I feel that entrepreneurship is like that you are literally driving a car, and there's a big truck which is actually moving ahead of you, and they're throwing stuff at your car every day. Sometimes it might be a TV flung at you, sometimes it can be a nuclear bomb. You don't know what's going to come, so
mm,
you need to be prepared for it, right? And that's how the journey looks for me. I mean, I every day I get a call from my tech team. Oh, Shaurya, this has happened, fuck, what should I do? And then I'm getting a call from a marketing team, Shaurya, this has happened. And this is literally what I do. I solve those problems. So for a job like this, theoretical fixed material cannot really help you out. So I kind of realized that this was a huge problem for me in my early days. So when the pandemic started, a lot of people who are a part of our community at Metvi, they reached out to us and they were like, Shaurya, we're not able to get jobs, we're not able to get internships, and now when we really want to do a startup, we are not able to, because we don't know how to get started. And in spite of them having done courses from all the top organizations. So I myself have done courses from grade B schools abroad. I've been a part of Y Combinator startup school. But in spite of all of those things, I realized that a lot of those things kind of did not help me out in the way that I thought it would. And that is the reason why we came up with MVP at the first place. And initially we were not even charging for it. So our focus was that, okay, I teach you something first, then I also make you do it, and then I
mm.
also introduce you with an expert who understands and who is doing this particular job to tell you what are the kind of problems that you can face. So here I'm covering all the three sides: academic side, practical side, experience side. And that helps you really understand how things are working. And you're also getting to network with this person. So what if we, break down entrepreneurship into those very important small functions, research, analytics, marketing, branding, finance, fundraising, so on and so forth, operations, HR. And we kind of help people, at least understand the core things about it in a very short period of time so that they can get started with their journeys. And that is why, I am not going to say that the other courses are bad, but for me, on a personal level, they did not, I had to do a lot of them to get the kind of experience that I probably wanted in less amount of time. Because all of us are kind of so busy today. We cannot do 500 courses to figure out how entrepreneurship works, right? A lot of the courses that we do, they're very repetitive. They are going to talk about the same things. So I personally wanted to develop a course for myself. So I go back in time and I tell, my younger version that, hey, Shaurya, you know what? There's a 30-day program that if you do, you're going to learn everything that is there about entrepreneurship, and you would be able to start. Not only like you don't have to complete the course to start your business. You start your business on the very first day that you get started with this exercise, with this particular program. So on the last day, you would be in a position where you are not only able to, have your startup present, it's also functional, it's working. And that's why, MBP kind of came into, play. And we realized that, okay, now we are incurring costs. So we had to kind of, keep some kind of, we had to monetize it to a level where we could sustain ourselves. Otherwise, it was a free program that we ran. We ran 2 or 3 cohorts, if I'm not wrong. So after running those 3 cohorts, we realized that, okay, now we are getting 1,500 people to apply for it. We cannot entertain so many people. We have to kind of make sure that we are able to kind of cover our costs at least, right? And in fact, to be very honest, it has been, the kind of, the feedback that we have got was something that we were not even expecting. So, figure out what are the kind of courses that you want to do. If you only want to say, learn one particular thing, try to at least, if you don't want to do, program like what we are offering, try to cover all the 3 elements of it. Learn, practice, talk, and network. So I would say that talking and networking is probably the same thing. So learn, practice, network. You have to cover all of these 3 things to really understand how a particular thing works, right? Because most of us, we would only do the academic part of it. Or some of us would dive straight away into entrepreneurship, only do the practical part of it, right? Which is something that I did. But if you are able to do all of these 3 things, you would be in a very grounded position, because you would be able to know that, okay, this is a problem that I can face in future. Or, okay, this is how brand positioning statements are made. Or this is how I actually market myself. And if you've already done it, you are going to be much more confident when you actually take over things on your own. So that is the right approach, irrespective of whether you do MBP or if you do some other such program, if it is available, I'm not aware of. At least follow all of these 3 things to make sure that you really grasp how entrepreneurship works. Don't just read books. Don't just network. Don't just dive into it. Do all of these things and do it in the right proportions, which is, according to me, a very difficult thing to do. Because I remember that, there were some days I was like, okay, I'm just going to read books. Fuck it. I'm going to literally, turn off my life and I'm just going to read books. It's not really helpful. It doesn't really get you there. And you're going to know that when you do it. So I think that's what it is. Entrepreneurship is a complicated thing. It's a complicated skill set, and it's a way of life. And to learn a way of life, the only way that you can do it is to live it, to experience it, and to learn from it every day. And that is what we are trying to do through our Metvi Business Program, right? And that is what you should try and do for your own life, for everything in general, which is associated with entrepreneurship. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Definitely. And I'm totally with you on this, whether it's my personal experience or whether it's any product or concept that's new in the market, unless you actually experience on the ground, what is it that is happening? Is it being receptive enough? Like, for example, why does any company run a beta program? So we are currently at our beta testing version. And I think you guys have just concluded. Is that right? You guys have just concluded your beta testing at Metvi as well?
We did that a few months back.
A few months back. So we are in the process. And why is it that companies are doing beta testing? It's really to experience on the ground what is it that your consumers like and not like. What is it that's being receptive? What is it that's needed? And until you do launch some version out, some betas out, you don't get the real understanding of it. So in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of personal life, in terms of any product, I think it's very important what you said is the real experience is to go out and actually do it to understand or to learn anything from it.
Right. Absolutely. That makes a lot of
Yes,
sense.
yeah, and Shaurya, I'm going to now close off now because it's been almost an hour, and I just want to say thank you so much. This is a very, very interesting conversation. For anybody who's missed out the previous parts, if you didn't join in or anybody wants to have a look later, it's going to be on our IGTV. And thank you so much for being with us, Shaurya. Hope to have you again soon.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Tarini. I think we had a great interaction, and I really, really hope that this interaction would add value to your viewers. And let's connect again, definitely. Thank you so much for having me
Definitely.
over.
Take care, Shaurya, and thank you to the audience and
Thank
everyone
you.
who stayed on and came in and out. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Stay safe, guys. Bye.
Bye.